When couples are discussing issues that they differ on, one of the things that tends to happen is that couples tend to assume their interpretation of what's going on is an infallible, non-disputable, the only objective way to see the situation. And that's a false assumption. For example, you may live in a part of the country where there are lots of apple trees, and you're driving along the road, and at a distance you see a tree with a lot of round red objects hanging from the tree, and you conclude, even though it doesn't appear to be the time of the year for apple trees, that you've got an apple tree in full bloom. You drive closer and you discover someone has hung ornaments all red, round like an apple from the tree. So the fact that you interpreted it one way based on your assumption we're an apple country and it looks like an apple tree and it has red objects didn't mean you were mean or that you were stupid. It just meant that it may appear to be something that on closer observation you discover is not what you originally thought it was. And the same is true when we deal with our partner over difficult issues. We sometimes assume that we know the reasons why they're doing what they're doing. But keep in mind, you are not a mind reader. You really don't know what's going on inside the mind of your partner unless your partner shares those thoughts and those feelings. And to be able to encourage them to share what they think and what they feel, you have to create an environment that encourages it. If your partner knows that if they're honest with you and tell you what they think and what they feel, that they're going to be hearing about this from you for the next 10 years, that the fact they've been honest with you, that you're going to take that and use that like a stick to emotionally beat them every time this subject comes up again, then they're going to be reluctant to share their true feelings and true thoughts with you. So we have to create an environment that encourages both people to be honest, open, straightforward, identify the facts, but now we're moving more into interpretation for a person not to be afraid to tell you how they're interpreting the situation. And as I said, since none of us is infallible in our interpretation because we're not mind readers, we have to spend energy asking clarifying questions when our partner talks about what they think and how they feel. We need to ask a lot of questions instead of start impugning their motives, because they don't necessarily have an infallible opinion, especially when they're talking about you. They may, say, as we've discussed earlier, well, you tend towards being a hoarder, you tend towards being a clean freak. Well, these are interpretations based on the standards. There's no objective standard for this. The very extreme people, it's very clear they're hoarders, and the very extreme people that obsessively, compulsively run around the home or house or apartment constantly cleaning 24/7, these are clean freaks and hoarders. But most of us are neither one of those extremes, but we have different opinions about what is a clean house and what it takes to get it there. So whatever subject that we're talking about, we probably have some difference of opinion, different perspectives. And the first step in trying to resolve something is to fully understand where your partner's coming from. Create an environment that rewards them for being honest. Ask clarifying questions to make sure you really understand where they're coming from. It's oftentimes a good idea to capsulate, what you hear your partner saying by saying, well, I heard you say that you think the house needs to be cleaned more frequently than we're doing now, and that you need my help in doing it. Okay. And then if your partner says yes, then you have expressed to them what you heard them say. They probably went into greater detail. But if your partner says, yes, that's what I'm saying, now you understand where your partner's coming from. And then you can talk about your interpretation and why perhaps you have a difference of opinion, and you can discuss this further. But obviously, if your partner feels that way, they may feel angry because they're not getting the cooperation they would like to get from you. So if you take your time and, again, divide the facts from the interpretation, from the feelings, and you're going to have a greater chance understanding where your partner is coming from. You need to become like a detective, that's coming to the scene of an event, and they're trying to look at all the details and facts and trying to find out what's the most reasonable explanation of why there's been a problem. And that's what we need to do. Too oftentimes we're more concerned about explaining ourselves and being heard than we are in hearing the explanations of our partner. We need to reverse that. We need to be focusing on trying to understand where our partner's coming from. And then hopefully in turn they'll give us the same respect when it comes to us explaining where we're coming from. So if we're going to resolve issues rather than just constantly quibble and fight and waste emotional energy that never goes anywhere, we have to engage together in a simple step-by-step process that has the possibility of resolving the issue, rather than the issue coming up over and over again, going through a fruitless discussion where the end of it is one person's pouting and won't talk to the other person, or the other person is angrily going on, the other party walks away from the discussion. No one wins in these situations. It's a lose-lose. To change that, we have to know how we're going to discuss things. And so I hope that with God's help, we can all get better at communicating with one another and understanding each other.